All right, welcome back to Beyond the Belt. This episode, I have a special guest, Chris from CNC Glass. You know, when it comes to doing a remodel on a bathroom, as we discussed in the episode, you know, you think of everything that goes into it as far as the remodel, and one special piece, important piece, is a shower door in most cases. So talking to Chris on what he does, how he does it, how he started with his business, and how he's working on growing it. So it was a great conversation, and I hope you enjoy. All right, Chris Vena from CNC Glass, welcome to Beyond the Belt. Great to have you here.
Thanks for having me, Mike. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm excited because as we talked before, you and I have always talked about doing something, and we did. On your end, it's got to be a few years ago now.
I think it was 2 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, wow, 2 years, it's flying by.
Yeah.
We always have so many things. I see you a lot on the job site when you come out, measure for shower doors. And I know in the past, we've brainstormed about doing different things, and we're always talking shop. And that's why I was excited to have you on, to get you in here and probably, I would say, learn things that I didn't know about you, which is pretty cool. Because I was trying to think how long we've been working together, and I was thinking maybe around 10 years.
It's got to be at least that, yeah, maybe even a little more.
And was it through BNI that the contact came together?
So yeah, it was kind of through BNI in a roundabout way. So I knew Ryan Parson from BNI, and he had connected me with Dave Stewart through BNI, okay. And then we were at a home show, and you guys had a booth at the home show. I had a booth at the home show. Those two guys had a booth at the home show, and they were like, "You don't know DBS?" And I was like, "No." So They connected me with you guys, and it's just been great ever since.
Yeah, so that has to be, BNI, which is Business Network International, right?
Yep.
I believe, because I joined a chapter, and that was 15 years ago.
Okay.
Because that's when my daughter was first born. Mm-hmm. That's why I remember that. And we were a little hesitant about joining because we heard you're networking, you get good contacts for sure, but a lot of times you're working just as hard to get referrals for a lot of people, and sometimes you're spinning your wheels unless you meet the right people. Mm-hmm. And I just remember we met the brothers, Ken and Ryan Parsons, and then it was Dave Stewart, and then I thought it was linked to you, and I tell you, that's been a great asset because look, we still work with you guys, great trade partners, and then some. So it's been a huge asset and a great find all around, I'd say, to still work together as long as we have.
Yeah, I agree. I'd say a lot of the really good relationships that I have come from there, from stemming from either a BNI or a networking event or group at some point. And I think that where most people get screwed up with that is they're looking for something immediately, where, I started BNI. I probably didn't meet you guys till a few years later from when I first started, but those relationships that I built with Ryan and Dave, over those 2 years before I met you guys, just allowed it to just be seamless with you guys. So I think looking long term at something like that, it could be super valuable because a lot of my really good relationships, with other contractors and things like that have come from situations like that.
Well, it's building that trust,
Yeah.
and you build that trust, and we have that relationship with another business, and then they refer someone.
Yep.
You know what they're looking for. So you hit the ground running coming in. Mm-hmm. And since then, doing our shower doors, and I was thinking of you today because I'm on a bathroom, and that was another push for doing this podcast, because as we talk about, there's so much more that goes into things that we do than the craft or the tools, which is a big part of it. It's a huge
Yep.
part of it, but there's so much more behind it. So I'm already thinking on this bathroom, we're down to bare bones. We're down to the studs. It's, 100-year-old home. We have the plaster coming off the wall, plaster and lath. So you don't know what's going to be behind there. And then I'm just thinking prep now, the prep of what needs to be done. And that's what you guys want. You guys want the best scenario possible, right? Especially if it's a complete gut. You want to come in, and that's what I think of. We want, for the function, for the quality, for doing the tile, everything's has to be dialed in. But then that final touch is you guys coming in with the shower door.
Yeah, and it really reflects on what you guys did in the beginning. There's so many things on your end. I feel like I could literally I could have 3 years worth of content just with the little part of the bathroom that we touch on, let alone you guys with everything from the full gut all the way up. But all of those little intricate details all tie together, because we can put the most awesome shower door in and we can make it perfect, but if everything around it doesn't look perfect, it doesn't look perfect. So all those little details really come together. It's like I would say like cooking, but it's more like baking, right? Like cooking, you just throw a little bit of everything in, but when you're baking a cake, if you're not perfect with all the ingredients, that cake isn't going to come out right. And I think a bathroom is the same way. Any type of construction is the same way. You got all these little intricate pieces all coming together to make one big grand scheme. And I think the homeowners only see that end. They only see that final piece. And yeah, they'll see like little stuff in between, but I don't think they really realize most of the time what really goes into making a really good bathroom.
Right, until they're in it and they see every step, because it's like that on every bathroom pretty much, but on this one where they come in every night and they see the stage of where we're at, everything getting torn out, what was behind the walls, and then what we have to do for the prep, because more, well, I wouldn't say more than anyone, but in a unique way, the question, how long is it going to take, right? How long is it going to take for the project to be done? How long is it going to take for me to get the shower door? It's the magic question. And the thing is, there's an important timeline. There's an important procedure that has to be taken in order to make sure this is dialed in and done the right way. Because like you said, you can come in and put the shower door on, and if things aren't done right, it's probably going to show more, or things can look like they're okay and underneath still not be done right.
Even underneath the finished product. Yeah, you're right. Like underneath the tile, it could be all not right, and you don't find out for a month or two.
Exactly. If you have a leak, and then you have, more issues going on. But with that leads me into my first question.
Sure.
You're walking in onto a job, and that takes experience on your end, because you can walk in, already know based on the shower layout what needs to be done. So how did you get into, I noticed on your website that it said 6 decades of being in business, right? So I was curious. Again, this is something you and I have known each other for a long time. And I never knew how you got into installing glass. So how'd you get started? Obviously, it's in the family, but were you, dead set on getting right into it?
So, man, wow. It seems like forever ago now, but yeah, I was a kid, and I just every weekend. My father owned a glass company. My entire family, if you look through, they all own some sort of glass company, which is really interesting on my father's side, at least, anyway. None of them really work together. Everyone's kind of separate. They're in little different pocketed areas or whatever, but they all are in the same industry, which is really funny. But ever since I was a really young kid, it was every weekend, every summer, just I would go to work with Dad, and
Okay.
I would pick up little things. And, when you're first starting, 12 years old, whatever, and you're going, you're not really doing anything, but you're watching and, you're observing. And for me, it was always like, I don't know that I had an interest at that age, but I think probably when I hit like probably 15, 16, maybe 14, I really started working like seriously. And I really started to pick it up, and I was like, oh, I want a car at 16. Let me go actually work and make some money so I can get the things that I wanted to get. And I really just picked it up pretty quickly. I think by like 16, when I got my driver's license, I remember I jumped in the van and was driving around, and I was going out on my own installs with a helper kind of thing, and
Wow.
which was kind of cool. It was a little bit of a different business back then. It's evolved obviously over the years.
Well, was your dad taking you on to the jobs in thinking that maybe you'd pick it up and then you'd get into the business kind of thing, or he was just taking you along?
I think,
or like,
yeah, I
go
think
ahead.
he was trying to teach me like work ethic more than anything else.
Yeah.
Was probably what the initial intent was. I don't think it was really to get into this industry and to be anything in this industry. I think it was just the work ethic thing they were trying to instill, like, you got to work, you got to work and work hard, and you can get something for it. And I think they really wanted me to go to school and, go to college and do something, whatever. I found out probably about, I don't know, 17, 18 years old, you're junior, senior in high school. And I was like, you know what? I don't know that route's for me. I didn't have any interest in doing that route. I didn't have any interest in school. I liked learning,
Yep.
but I didn't learn. I wasn't a learner. Like, I can't sit there and study a book and learn. I had to like touch it and feel it. And, in the construction industry, you can have the ability to do that. Maybe a doctor, not so much. You can't, surgeon, you don't want them practicing on you, but, a contractor, I used to take the caulk gun and just run caulk beads on every single thing in my father's shop. He was kind of probably mad at me at one point in time when I was a kid because everything had caulk on it. But I learned how to caulk so good, and it was just amazing. And I really latched onto that, and I latched onto the fact that I could make really good money doing that kind of
Yeah,
thing.
you can hit the ground running, and
Right.
in the business that's already going,
Right.
it's already operating up and running.
Yeah. So high school, I would literally, my senior year in high school, I set my schedule up so that way I had 2 classes in the morning. I was done by like, I don't know, I think it was like 10 o'clock. I'd get out of school. I'd jump in the car. I'd drive to my father's shop. I'd work for the rest of the day. I'd probably work, back then we worked whatever. It didn't matter the hours. We worked, whenever till we were done. And then we went home, and then it would just start the next day. And I really enjoyed it. I found a lot of like sense of pride in doing something and getting it to turn out right, and taking something from nothing and just turning it into something really that could be really beautiful.
So did you have anything else that you thought of doing? Because, I remember when I was in high school, you're thinking the pressure's on, and my daughter's sophomore now,
Yep.
and I see it more clearly now. When you're in it, you're just so distracted by so many things, right? You have your friends,
Yep.
you have the other things you're interested in. You're not taking it too serious, but
Yep.
you got to kind of dial in and decide on doing something.
Yeah.
So, did you have, whether it was teachers or guidance counselors, suggesting things, a different career path to go down, or a choice?
I really wasn't amazing in school, to be honest with you. Really didn't have a great time with it at all. I really wasn't a great student. I think I passed by proxy just to get me out of there, to be honest with you, back then. But
Yep.
and I think not to say like I got bad grades because I was stupid or dumb or whatever. I think I got bad grades because I wasn't interested, to be honest with you.
Right.
Um, And I was interested in construction and seeing how things get built and stuff like that. And it was very much more hands on, and I could touch it and I could see it and I could watch it come together. I did have if something was pushing me in one direction, it was like more towards like the accountant direction. I really realized really quickly I can't sit behind a desk. Even though I'm not out installing anymore every day,
Yeah.
I cannot sit behind a desk all day and just crunch numbers and look at stuff. It's just not my thing. I can do that and I can understand the numbers and stuff like that, but I'm not a desk person. I needed to be out doing things.
Right, or have that balance, because I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I just I like learning even more as I got older, and especially now. I mean, now whether it's reading or listening to a podcast or Audible, obviously there's so many more options now than there was then.
Yeah.
It's just what you're interested, what you find interesting as time goes on. You
Yeah.
really, some do know. I'm impressed with some younger, we go to BOCES, you were with me, and we could talk about that shortly. And you see some of the students that are just already dialed in. Like they already, and that could change down the road, as we know. It could be 10 years into a career and you want to change, but you can't predict that. But some of them, they know what college, they did great academically. They're just dialed in, laser focus, right?
Yeah.
But maybe it's because the crowd or the friends, the group friends, it was just a lot of people were similar. They just couldn't find interest in a lot of what they were teaching.
Yeah.
And now with my kids, it's like, all right, well, when am I going to use this? You're using algebra. When am I going to use? Well, there are times maybe, and it's just making your brain work and figure stuff out. So you're going through that exercise of trying to problem solve, and there's reasons for it, and you do see it. Are you going to use it specifically? Maybe not. But that's where it comes to. There are many people that just need that hands-on. They need to be physically involved with something, and that's obviously a lot of the trades.
Yep.
Is physically hands-on, and that's where you can fit. But now it's getting the two, the training, which I'm sure you're involved now with growing your company. You're getting the education, bringing that into the hands-on, and sometimes that's tough because some people just have a hard time with the two.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we focus a lot on training now. Finding someone with skills is getting harder and harder. So we're finding we have to find someone who's open to learning and wanting to grow and wanting to progress themselves and learn, and finding ways to teach them, because I'm also finding in doing that not everybody learns the same way. So it's been a very interesting journey in that. We're looking forward to continuing that, and to getting better at teaching and training individuals how to do different things.
Yeah, it was always on the job. So, like rewinding back, so you're working for your dad. Were there other employees at the time for the company?
So in the beginning, I think there was one other guy. If I remember back, it was a long time ago. There was one other guy. There was a few different ones that floated in and out, over the course of the years. But it was a small company, but it was a very different, right now everything's remodel. It was mainly like new home developments. So they were all kind of cookie cutter for the most part. So once you got one down, you could run. But yeah, it was really, I kind of was like watching them two work in the beginning, and then it turned into my father realized that I could do it, so he would send me with the other guy, and he would just do whatever he was doing. I always joke about him, walking around with his clipboard. Do you even do anything around here?
Right. Yeah. You became an asset very early.
Yeah,
which is awesome.
No, so
He's probably proud of you.
Yeah, I'm sure he is. I hope he is. But now, it's funny. We turned the tables, so now he works for me. So it's really interesting, and we've been able to give him a job where he can utilize his strengths and do the things that he really loves to do and not have to do the things he doesn't want to anymore. So
Right. So that's where, again, it's funny, I never asked, but so is that where CNC, Chris and Cosmo?
So yeah, so originally we were supposed to open this company together, oh gosh, whatever, 15, 17 years ago, whenever I opened it.
Yeah.
And, he ended up, saying he was going to go to Queens and move down there. And, I said, that's fine. You do what you're going to do. But I stuck with the name. We were going to call it CNC Glass, Chris and Cosmo, Cosmo and Chris, however you wanted to call it. Cosmo's my father. And I decided to just keep the name. Like, if he didn't teach me this industry, I wouldn't have known it anyway. So,
Yeah.
very thankful for that. But now he's on board too here, so we're excited to have him.
And it's cool to see, from an outsider looking in, the family business, small business, and to see that transition. Like I said, I didn't know the whole story. It's cool to learn it. But then again, when we're on the job, how much time do we have to talk, right? Because you're doing stuff. I got to get going, but I know that we have gotten into it. But that's cool. That's another reason for Beyond the Belt, the podcast, because a lot of times there's the stereotype for the trades, but there's so many success stories out there, or good stories of people that's a perfect transition. Your dad had a business, you come in, you start working, you take it over, and then he's helping you out, working for you. I've gotten to meet him a bunch of times. Great guy, knowledgeable guy. He comes in, looks at anything I have, just like you, and he'll just know right away, because I can anticipate. I could have as you know, the curbless, barrier-free showers are so popular now. We're doing them on every job. I could have a bench there and then a knee wall behind it, and I remember him on this one job, and it was a pretty detailed job, and he just came over and he just said, "This is what we got to do. This is going to look the best." And that's what is great, because sometimes you need that.
I think I remember the exact job that was, because I'm pretty sure that was the one that Andy filmed him doing that. And I was like, how did you get him on camera? Because he won't do it for me. So, yes, I do remember that job. It was the barrier-free showers can be really challenging. There's a lot of different complexities that come into play with them. But, yeah, that skilled eye that he has can pick it up and figure out what you got to do right away.
Yeah, and then it looks beautiful. You have the confidence. Because you guys have just that specialty craft. It's one thing with what we do. We get a mixture of a lot of different things, whether we're doing kitchens or decks. I could be outside framing, doing some foundations, basements, then we go back to bathrooms. But you guys have this specialty. You guys come in, shower doors. I know you guys do storefronts and residential windows, right?
Yeah, we do a lot of different things, believe it or not. So, everything mainly towards the glass industry. So we do the shower doors, we do a lot of glass railings, we do storefront, we do, office partitions, things like that, Herculite doors. I think I said storefront. We do residential windows. We do a lot of the commercial, the residential fronts too, which are really interesting, like the commercial grade windows in a residential home. So that's kind of neat too.
Okay.
Yep.
And then, is it on residential windows? Is it just replacing sashes or damaged, or how far do you go with those?
So we do everything from repair to complete replace. We're just kind of entering really into that. We've always done it, but we never really chased it as a part of the business. So, we would always do window replacements if something was just too damaged. We get a lot of calls for window repair, for broken panes of glass, whether it be single pane or double pane windows. The springtime is inevitable. Weed whackers, lawnmowers, they're breaking glass like crazy. Patio doors. So we can just change the glass out. But if other things are damaged, we can change the whole window out. We're kind of trying to chase that a little bit more as we're trying to grow the company. We want to have a whole window division where we can really focus on window replacements and things like that. We just connected with a few different companies. We got, Anderson certified just to have that stamp of approval, because, sometimes, people want to have that that name, that bigger name attached to. So it's just helpful with branding and stuff like that, and awareness, and making people feel comfortable.
So what makes up the sum of your work then, mostly?
So
Or is it
I would
seasonal?
say right now probably about 80% is shower doors, and probably I'd say that the other 20% is split between window repairs, window replacement. I guess I can't really say that because we got storefront in there too. So it's probably 70% shower doors, 10% window repair, 10% window replacement, 10% storefront. I'm lumping kind of the office partitions in with the shower doors because they're almost identical in a lot of ways. It's basically the same platform, the same glass, a lot of the same hardware we're using, depending on what the layout is. So,
Okay. And then your district, I mean, your guys are located in Wappingers.
yep.
And then as far as your work, you'll go, what, Orange County, Ulster County?
So we do Dutchess, Orange, Ulster, Putnam, Westchester, and we're waiting on our Rockland license. We're also looking at our Connecticut license. We're looking to expand further out. We're looking to put sort of like satellite locations. We've got this location going really, really well. One of the really tricky things with the glass industry is there's only so much, remodel. There could be, 100 homes within a small area, and those jobs probably take, a month, sometimes two, depending on the size and scope of the remodel. We're in and out in 3 hours, 4
Right.
hours,
Yeah.
so we need 2, 3 jobs a day. For some of the smaller stuff like the window repairs, maybe 4, 5, 6 jobs a day just to fill one crew for one day. So we need a much larger area. We want to create some maybe like satellite locations in like, maybe lower Westchester, so we can start branching out into Jersey, maybe one out towards Rockland so we can start getting more west. And we're looking towards Connecticut as well.
And then just so you'd have a spot to, because obviously you're getting all the doors delivered, all the glass delivered to your shop in Wappinger. So you would need a spot that made sense, right?
Yeah, so what we
Location-wise?
probably would do, and again, we're kind of in the beginning stages of all that. That's probably, a year out or so with all the logistics and everything like that. But really what it would be, we probably have everything delivered to a central hub, which would be our Wappingers location. And then we could have someone cart the things to, the doors, the hardware, everything as they're completed to those satellite locations where we could have, a crew or two working out of each location, to be able to service areas at a further distance.
Right. Gotcha.
Yep.
And because leads me to my next question as far as the glass that you guys use for frameless glass. Does
Yep.
that come out of one manufacturer, or
So
you have
there's-
multiple?
Yeah, there's quite a few. I mean, I guess it depends how it does. So, like the custom stuff that we do with you guys a lot. There's a place in, I think it's in Goshen.
Oh,
There's,
so it's pretty close.
yeah, it's like an hour from
That's
Wappinger.
not bad.
No, not at all. There's another place in Connecticut that we get stuff that's about an hour from Wappingers, maybe an hour and a half from Wappingers. There's another place in Jersey. There's actually 2 or 3 places in Jersey. And then we have other companies that we've partnered with as well, like HMI and Cardinal. I think they're out of Massachusetts. They'll supply like our cast glass, or if we have, like the more framed, more traditional style sliders, we'll get from them. Some of our semi-frameless doors. We also partner with Fleerco, and they have a lot of like barn door type sliders. Different scenarios are great for different things, especially if someone's gonna. We do have people come in and they want to install a door on their own. Giving them a fully custom thing is kind of a little bit difficult. There's no instructions. You kind of
yeah.
got to just make it up as you go, where I can now give them something that they can probably handle on their own.
Yeah, I mean, I see that with you guys on the job.
Yep.
You guys, depending on the height that we commit to or go over with the customer. I mean, these could be some tall doors. You
Yeah.
guys are, setting them on blocks, setting them on shims, the hinges, getting the hinges right, dialed in perfectly.
Yep.
Because the floor, I mean, we'll get it close, but you have to compensate if the floor is a little out, the sweep. There's so much involved,
Yeah.
you know.
So the doors from like a company like them, usually they're pretty much, it's just going to give you a square opening. Anything that's out of square, it's just, you're going to have a gap from 0 to whatever it is out of square. Where we're cutting the glass. If your floor is out, if your wall is out, we're cutting that glass out to match that wall as best as possible within the realms of feasibility. But yep.
Well, what's the tolerance? You and I have talked about it, and there's jobs where we have control, and the job I'm on right now, I do have a little bit of control of what I can do with the walls. Because if we start furring out to make it plumb and square as perfect as possible, it can affect a long wall that goes all the way down. And
Yes.
there's tricks there. We can do the shower area and just kind of walk it down a little bit.
Yep.
But what is there a tolerance? I don't think I ever asked that.
So like a maximum tolerance of
Max
how far
tolerance?
out it can be?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess it depends on the scenario. I mean, everything's obviously scenario driven realistically. We've done walls as far out as 2 inches.
Oh, wow. That's a
We've
lot.
done, usually an exterior wall that nobody wants to fix. It's fine. We can
Yep.
make it match. Where it comes into tricky. So pretty much no matter what, we can cut the glass out of square, even if it's like a double cut where like a wall will go, it'll go in and the center of it's bellied in and then it bows back out. We can do some of that to some degree. But really what happens, the only really thing that's an issue is if the curbs are out of level and you want to do a sliding door. That gets really tricky because most of them don't have like your frameless barn door type sliders with the exposed wheels that everybody wants nowadays. They don't have a lot of play for level on the base. So
Right.
swinging door, we can pretty much 3 inches out of square. It doesn't matter. We can totally do that. It's really the sliders that have a problem with the curb if they're not level.
So in that case, then you're just saying, hey, based on the curb, we got to choose
Yeah.
a different door.
Yeah, we
in
can
that case.
cheat. Like technically, from most of the specs of what it's supposed to be, it's supposed to be within a 16th of an inch on most of them. We can cheat it a little bit. We have a couple little tricks we can pull out of our sleeve or whatever. Anything over 3/16 is probably pushing it. 1/4 inch is definitely well over the tolerance of making it work in a normal scenario.
Yeah, because that's tough sometimes. I mean, we keep it in mind because you and I talk on every job you come out, and it's top of mind for me when I'm starting with the framing, going to the shower pan, and then coming up to the tile. I'm always checking because you don't. I know you guys can make things work and have in the past when we run into things, but for someone that I know there's many different scenarios. If you have someone that just, let's say a client hires someone just to come in and do their tile, they're not thinking of the shower door as much, right?
No.
So then you go and then you have to tell them,
Yeah, sometimes we have to be the bearer of bad news on that one. Unfortunately, Mike. We just had a scenario the other day where they wanted. I don't remember the exact scenario what they wanted. I think they wanted a slider or something like that. But they wanted a swing door, but they put the seat kind of like right up against, instead of like, usually you guys put the seat, it comes all the way out, even with the curb. We do a little notch panel that goes up on top of it. Well, they put it just short, and it was just really an awkward, weird scenario. Why they did it, I don't know. But we have a lot of scenarios like that where we have to come in and we have to tell them, like, look, we can't do what you want. And I think it all comes down to that communication on the front end of things. Most of the time, they don't even talk to us until the shower's done, and then it's too late. I like to get in on the beginning. I'm totally happy having a conversation up front going, this is what we want. well, let's make sure we prep this for it and see how this is all going to come together, because now we can make sure you're going to get what you want in the end, instead of having to settle for something that nobody really thought of beforehand.
Well, does that, are you working with, you work with our company, DBS Remodel.
Yep.
So is it primarily companies that are calling you for these doors, and then you get, random independent homeowner that calls you, or mix of both evenly?
Yeah. So usually when it's a problem, it's usually a random homeowner that called us that had some guy come, and usually it's a really small guy that's a dude in a truck working, and
Right.
not that there's anything wrong with that whatsoever, but they tell them up front, like, look, shower doors on you, afterwards you figure it out.
Right.
But a lot of times in that there's no communication, and then they don't end up getting what they want. Usually if it's a contractor like you guys or any of the other contractors that we work with, especially if we work with them on a regular basis, we try to build that relationship enough to be able to talk with them on the level of, because everybody gets a little cranky about what their stuff is. Nobody wants to be told what to do, but something as simple as make sure you pitch the saddle in can make the difference of whether your door is going to leak or not. And I have no control over it. It's done by the time I get there. But, we try to build relationships with all the contractors, even if we're not working directly with them. We try to educate them on, like, hey, next time make sure you pitch the saddle in. Nobody really ever wants to hear it, which is why we try to build those relationships with people. Because once we have a relationship, we can then say, like, hey, Mike, like, you make sure we pitch the saddle in, just so that way we know we're safe. And you're not now taking it as a hit on your work. You're more taking it as we're working together to try to make this the best thing possible.
Right. Right. And that's what, again, working with you and your dad, your team,
Yep.
you guys are looking out, working together. And and I've done it in the past where I've just called you and said, hey, this is what I got.
Yeah.
Are we good here? And then you've come out and looked at it way in advance before measuring.
Yep.
But with that, so working for your dad, now you have the company, and now you've been growing for, and I, just from meeting and having our partner meetings and networking, you were always dialed in on growing, getting a bigger crew. So now that you're growing, well, where are you at now as far as the company size?
So we're still pretty small, but I think, glass company small is different than like general contractor small. You know what I mean? Like general contractor small is usually a guy in a truck that picks someone up on the weekends to help them work.
Yeah.
I didn't actually take over my father's company. He closed it. I went to work for a couple other people, really quickly realized I'm not really good at working for anybody else. I wanted to do things the right way, and everyone was always like, cut this corner, we're doing too much over here, and I didn't really like that, so that's why I started my own company. But fast forward to today, so we have Gabriella in the office, and she's fantastic. She's been a game changer for us, because before it was me out in the field answering the phone while I'm trying to put a screw in or hold a piece of glass. I can't tell you how many times I've been holding a piece of glass for 20 minutes while I'm on the phone, and I can't feel my arm anymore.
Yeah, it's probably me calling you, asking you questions.
It probably is. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm super thankful for questions, man. Don't ever feel bad about those. But she's been a game changer for us. She's allowed me to really kind of get out there and spread out a bit and really be able to grow the company. I got to be honest with you. We have Jamie, who came on, who really, he knew nothing maybe a year ago. He knew absolutely nothing. Probably didn't even know what a screwdriver was, if I think back on it. And he's installing a vast majority of our doors right now. He really came on. He really was hungry to learn. He was hungry to listen and really just take any advice. And he's really been phenomenal. He's done a great job as well in the field. We have a couple new guys that we're teaching and training, see where we can get them. We just have a window guy that we're working on getting up to speed fully. So we should have, we had, basically it was me doing everything to two crews pretty much going out, which is a big deal. Most glass companies are fairly small, unless they're like commercial, and then they're gigantic.
Right.
But most residential type glass companies are a guy in a truck. If he has a helper, maybe that's about it. A couple of them are a little bit bigger, but we really, I think we can see ourselves, maybe in the 10, 12 truck area in the next couple of years, with being able to expand to different locations and stuff like that. I think that's totally feasible, and I think the only reason we're able to do that is because we're building a great team. Because I really wouldn't be able to do that on my own, to be honest with you.
Right. Yeah,
And
you get that foundation.
yeah, we're really focused on training, because I can't put an ad out and get a glazier. I just can't do it. They're not there. They don't. There's
Right.
nobody that has those specific set of skills. I can take other skills from like a carpenter and transition a lot of them, but there's a lot of really hyper specific skills that need training. So we've really been focused on that, and I think that's going to be what really pushes us over to be able to really grow a good company.
Well, with Jamie, did he have skills coming in? I mean,
No.
how did that click? Just his
So
DNA.
I think it was definitely a real hunger and willingness to work on his end and really to learn it, which was really cool to see. It was really refreshing. A lot of people they don't care. They just come to work to collect a paycheck, and you could tell he was a little bit different. Both him and Gabriella, because she didn't have any experience within construction industry at all, and she runs the entire office, which is pretty phenomenal. I don't have most of the time I'm coming to her for help on stuff now instead of her coming to me, which is great. And Jamie's doing the same thing in the field, so he really kind of wanted to learn from the field perspective. I think that was the biggest part of it. And then really it was a lot of trial and error of how do we teach him? Like, I don't know. I've been doing this for 20 something years. How do I don't even think about half the things that I had to teach him. It's just inherent. I just know it and I just do it. And it's like, well, why wouldn't you do it? But I had to slow myself down and think like, oh, I have to tell him every little step, every little bit of the way, because he doesn't know that. He hasn't been doing it for 20 years. And it was a very like aha moment that like even something like where to put the block, like you'd think it's a no-brainer, but there is no no-brainer when you don't know.
Yeah, it's true. And we see that with what we do. It's so true because you have been doing it for so long,
Yep.
it becomes second nature. And you just assume that what you see, they see to a point.
Yep.
And the training of trying to, and that's hard. That's difficult to do. I mean, for doing it for so long, you have to actually think to yourself, okay, I got to show them this, because I've been guilty of it just as well with some of the guys that work with us. And I'll let them loose on something. It's easier to let them loose, I should say, with what we do, because I can have them, cut out some 2x4s. You can't, I would say, let them loose. Maybe
No.
a little bit on some caulking here and there, right? But you can't let them loose on a glass door.
Yeah, believe it or not, the caulking is probably one of the last things we let them loose on.
Okay.
Because everything's so in your face and all of our materials are clear. So if they mess up, you're going to see it and it's in your face. So, it is hard to let them go, though. So we do kind of have some like mock stuff here that we try to work on and try to do with them to let them kind of get a feel for it. So especially with the glass, like a lot of the guys with the glass, they're so used to like wood, if they have any experience or they just don't know. It's heavy, it's awkward, it's slippery, and they'll just nick a corner and the whole piece just blows up. And it's very interesting. Usually within guys like first couple of weeks, I'll take a few pieces of scrap tempered and I'll just blow it up just to show them like, look, this is what happens if you accidentally touch this corner a little too hard on the tile. So be really, really careful.
Well, have you gotten that call where it's like, hey, Chris, we were walking through the driveway and we lost a panel?
So that's very rare. because we really stress like the safety because you can get really hurt even though
Yeah.
it's tempered. You can get really hurt. I had a piece blow up in my hands. It will occasionally spontaneously combust, which is really interesting.
Wow.
I've only seen it twice in 20 something years, so it's not something, firsthand twice. But I was holding it, just holding it, and it literally just blew up in my hands while I was holding it. But it, damaged the entire bathroom. We had to redo this person's entire the tile, the vanities, the mirror, the light, the countertops, the sink, the faucet,
Wow.
everything was damaged. You got 150 pounds of glass just raining down. It
Oh,
damages
yeah.
everything.
Wow.
So yeah, we really try really hard not to do so. It does happen with units occasionally because it's really thin glass on the window units. So sometimes changing a unit, they'll push too hard. That's usually not that big a deal because it's not a big piece. It's usually not, extremely expensive. But some of the shower glass, it gets up there as far as the cost. So we really are extremely careful not to do so.
So then obviously that happens, you lose a piece, then it's just on you guys then. Whether
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
breaks or if there was a miscue on and that happens on our end too. I mean,
Yep.
with some things we order, there's just a miscue somehow.
Yep.
And then once we get it, it's like, all right, this is off a little bit. And then you just got a piece that you can't use pretty
Yep.
much.
So that's usually the pieces. So usually for us, if that is happening, it's usually in the ordering or the measuring. And usually it's a factor of someone from the piece of paper to the computer program typed a 1 instead of a 2 or something silly like that. Like
Yeah, yeah.
or a 7 instead of a 1, and the next thing you know, it doesn't fit for whatever reason. But we do check in everything in the shop. Those are the pieces usually, by the way, that we use to blow up for somebody new. But we double and triple check everything now to try to avoid that because those mistakes get really costly really fast when
Oh,
you're talking
yeah.
about sometimes a couple hundred, sometimes a couple $1,000 piece of glass at my cost. Those mistakes hurt really, really quickly. So we double check everything. We usually have an order meeting where we'll check the sizes and the scope of everything. Even something as simple as ordering it in clear versus Starfire, or next thing you know, the glass comes in wrong and you got $5,000 worth of wrong glass, and you're like, oh, that's not good. So we really try to work hard on the front end to make sure that doesn't happen often. And then we always take everything, we throw it on the table because sometimes the manufacturers mess up too. And we don't want to be on site at Mrs. Jones's house and go, oh, this piece is wrong. It's not even our fault and we can't install it now. Now they're upset. We lost a day of work or a half a day of work. The guys, the morale goes down. So we're laying each piece of glass on the table, checking every hole, every cutout, every dimension, every add a square and size before we're even booking the jobs.
Yeah, I remember we were talking about that because just with manufacturing over the past couple of years, it was stutter stepping, it was spotty,
Yep.
there was issues trying to get material, and the material would come in and it just wouldn't be correct.
Yep.
So that just makes it, it's hard enough doing the work, the hands-on, running a business, being part of a business, but on top of that, it's like you do everything on your end as good as you can, but then something comes in and it's not right. So you, like you said, you try to avoid at least losing a day.
Yeah.
You got to be so meticulous, look everything over,
Yep.
just to ensure that when you're ready to go, you have everything you need.
Yeah. It's really, I find it helpful for Jamie too, because he's doing a lot of the install. So I have him check in the glass as it comes in. They'll get back from the day, they'll unload the truck, clean it out, get ready for the next day. They'll have half an hour, 40 minutes at the end of the day. He just starts checking in glass. But now he knows each piece and he knows what each job is beforehand. I really think that's been something that's really helped him too, because now it's not just blindly getting this piece of glass. He knows the details of that piece of glass well before he's even installing it, which has really been a game changer.
Well, right there, you have training, And I was talking to another guy at work about it today, that it's getting that experience, and you don't want the mess ups, but what the mess ups do, or anything that may happen, it's teaching.
Yep.
It's a Especially if Jamie's out there installing, and it could be something minor, but it could be something just enough to inconvenience, or prolong the time more
Yep.
than needed, or you have to go back. You know, that sticks so much better. Like I said, you want to avoid these things, but you can spin it to what the positive side or the silver lining of it
Yep.
is that someone that you're bringing into the company, when you have these things that happen, it sticks as far as training, because they don't want that to happen ever again, and
Yep.
now they're going to make sure it won't.
Yep. Yeah, we've definitely been through our growing pains, and what I find is every time we take the next step, we always find and uncover these little things that are like, oh, we didn't even know that was a problem, and we've gotten really good at saying, okay, this was a problem, and we just sit down as a company and we say, like, what was the problem? How did it happen? Where's the lesson? What can we learn? And then on the backside of that, how can we create a system so that we don't have this problem again? And that's been really, really good for us. And I know we have a lot more to go and a lot more to uncover and figure out, and things change as you get bigger. I've noticed too, what works at, one level doesn't always work at a bigger level. But I think that creating some sort of system, now it gives it this ability to say, like, well, this is the procedure for that. There's no reason to mess it up ever again, to have that mistake happen ever again.
So you guys have that documented now? That's kind of your
Yeah.
go-to as far as training, everything
Yep.
that comes up.
Yep. Everything that comes up, every issue that comes up. And sometimes there's not a solution right away. Sometimes it's like 6 months before we figure out, like, bam, that's the way we got to handle that.
Right.
So we'll do the best we can until we can figure that out. But yeah, we always have a rolling list of, like, here's our top issues. How do we create something that we can teach to the newest person really quickly and easily and simply? Because I do think it's got to be simple too. You can't be super complex and expect anybody to remember it. But if we have these things in place over time, almost like bulletproofing ourselves against, or insulating ourselves against issues.
Well, that's the thing too, because when were on your own and it was just you and you were answering the phone and you were doing everything,
Yep.
you just filed everything in your head,
Yep.
and you remembered it. But
Yep.
now that you have people involved in the company, that file has to be tangible to where you can go get it, whether it's in a program, because that's what we started doing. We started building it into a program. We contribute,
Yep.
and we have Rich from our office, and he builds the training program. And you look at it, and it's like, man, all these years, all this time you can put in, all this knowledge, and you can still refine it,
Yep.
still add to it. It's definitely endless, but needed big time.
Absolutely. Everything from how to put the drop cloths out on a job site to, how to answer the phone when a customer calls, or how to talk to a customer at the end of the job, what to run through with them, everything we have documented. And we're always going through and revamping and making them better. But I think the best thing we ever did was just start getting them on paper. In some way, shape, or form. We have them in like a computer kind of sort of program as well, where we can pull them up. We've even, done like, individual folders with files of videos on, like, we're doing more of that, because I'm finding some people, they can read it all they want, but if they don't actually watch it or see it, it doesn't really impact them. So we're putting together video profiles on the back end of these things. So, like, here's how you lay out the drop cloths in someone's house. You're not just like winging them out there. Lay them out nice and neatly, and so it's interesting. But it really kind of goes back to what we were talking about before. Like, you have to go back to every little minute detail of the things that you never even think about because you're so used to doing it on a daily basis, to really be able to teach and train somebody else how to do it at your level, or maybe even above your level. I think I'm not the best at everything. So I really think giving them that pad to start at, to be able to jump up to maybe be better than me at it.
Well, that, I mean, the videos are huge because being visual, bringing someone new in, you can sit them down and say, hey, listen, just watch our procedures from when you're going to go out and help someone on the job. And not only that, is another benefit of having new people come in is they can have, it's like what we said before, we take it for granted, what we need to do in order to complete a job. But a lot of times, and I've had it happen on my job. I'm in, doing the remodeling and construction for 30 years now, but they'll come in and be like, why don't you do it this way? Or why don't you try this? And it's like, you know what? You get stuck in a routine. It works, but someone else, other eyes seeing it, even if they haven't been in the business, can be helpful on just little tweaks to help out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we try to be really open to that too, because I think especially newer people, right? They get really intimidated and they're like, I'm not going to tell them what I think. But we're really big on trying to enforce, like, hey, tell us your thoughts. Like, if you see, like, hey, maybe you could do this quicker, faster, easier, better, more efficiently, whatever. Tell us. Maybe we've tried it before. Maybe we haven't. Maybe it's worth a go. It can't hurt to try, because I don't know everything. I certainly don't know everything. So.
Yeah, and then when you do try it or give them, I mean, we have some younger guys. We've had some younger girls work with us, and it excites them, getting them involved, not just saying, hey, this is the way we do it. It's my way or the highway. Just getting them in there and, hey, try it. And that's what, brings me to what we talked about or touched on earlier, was going down to BOCES, the trade school, talking to the students. That's really where we'll talk about what it's like to be on the job, what we do, the hands-on, what it's like to do the craft, but also explaining how much more is beyond that, especially a small company, or with what we do going into people's houses. The customer service is huge. I mean, we gave them just like basic fundamentals. It's like, first of all, you just show up on time. You're eager to learn. You have a good attitude, and then you want to trust good customer service. That's you're gonna be, hit the ground running coming in for sure. And I know when you were there with me, that again, we're going back maybe 2 or 3 years, but we want to get down there again. The whole challenge is not persuading the students or anyone to get into the trades, but explaining, just how it's rewarding, how you can have a career. Just as we talked about before, there are success stories. There are business owners. There are people, entrepreneurs. You want to, carve your own path out. And that's what it is, more than just telling them, getting into the trades is the only alternative to, not doing something else that you weren't interested in. So we got to go back down.
I agree. I think it's really interesting. The trades used to be looked at really poorly. Not even, you could totally own a company. You could totally do things like that. Even just being having a skilled set of labor, having some sort of labor skill that separates yourself. It's not readily available. You can really do really well for yourself, even just at that level, let alone owning a company or doing something like that, because it's really difficult to find people that have hard skills like that anymore.
It is, and I know I have conversations with so many people, and there's no one reason why there may be such a gap now, or many not getting in, having an interest. I mean, like your story as far as jumping in with your dad, I did a lot of the similar things. He would just bring me along. I mean, he wasn't in the trades, but he was always interested in the hands-on, doing his own stuff around the house. And it was just that experience of knowing that, hey, if you want to do something, if you want to go make money, you just have to be creative and go out and try it and do it. You know, is it because there's more options that are less, not to blame it on technology, because there's tons of advantage with technology, the paths you can go down. It's almost like you can get to certain spots faster through technology, right? With what we do, it does take a long time to learn a craft, to learn a trade, especially like yours, specialty trade.
Yep.
We don't have as much patience. You know, I don't know if I was coming into it now. I don't, you know, I always have a passion for it, but it just seems like it's just the way we are, right? We just don't have patience. Fast track everything.
It's true. It's true. But, you know, it's funny. I was doing interviews the other day, and, you know, I like to talk to the people that I interview and kind of like, you know, go down different paths. And you know, I'm always talking to them. And it's really easy to go get a job at something like an Amazon for $25 an hour right now, which is crazy because all they do is sit in the truck and drive stuff places, and it's no skill whatsoever. So sometimes they come in here and they have no skill, and they want to start at a really high level pay-wise because they can do a non-skilled job like that. But I think even with like technology stuff, that stuff changes so rapidly that you could be hot today and what you do today could not even exist tomorrow. Where, you know, you might start at a lower level, let's say coming on to learn glasswork if you have zero experience, then going to get, you know, the $25 an hour job at you know, Amazon or whatever. But that skill built over time could be 30, 40, 50, 100. You know, you could get into sales with it. You could own a company with it. It's literally unlimited if you want it to be. But I think there's such a greater potential, and I try to share that with people when I'm talking with them, because I think a lot of people only think about today. You know, they're not thinking 3 years down the road, oh, if I get the job at Amazon, I'm just going to have to hop to another thing. Or if I do the, you know, whatever technology thing, and in a year when they change that, when they come out with some new gadget or new techie thing that completely wipes that off the face of the map, I made more money for a really short period of time, but now I have no stability. It's gone. It's literally gone, and they have to start over, which is really, really interesting, where you could build something with something like this, a trade, where you have some skills that are always applicable. You could build them at any pace you want. Nobody's ever going to hold you back except for yourself. And you can continue to grow that and grow that and grow that to whatever level you want.
Right.
So
yeah,
I think
and that's again, just, and I tell my kids now, just try many different things. Because you can build, the soft skills are huge, you know, for anything you start to go into, just dealing with customer service, just trying different jobs. There's a lot of things that can overlap into another job. You know, as far as the trades, just, of course, it's the passion, I would say, that most would say that why they stuck in it for so long. I mean, there's a few exceptions. Everyone has a story. But the passion does keep you here. I mean, I'm sure you would agree there's just sometimes to where it can really beat you up, right? Mentally,
for sure.
Physically,
and
of course.
physically,
Both of them, to where some days it's cold out, it's raining, we're working outside, and it's just, I'm used to it now. So, you know, it's just another day that's like, all right, well, I'm prepared. I know how it's going to be.
And
again, this is something we talk to the students about. We're like, listen, it's But you're going to have that in different careers, different professions.
100%.
There's going to be days you're grinding,
Yep.
and you have the example of people in many different careers where they're just counting the years down, right? They're just like, all right, I just want to get out of here. I just want to put my time in.
Yep.
And that's really not, it's not good. It's not where you want to be.
No.
If you're spending most of your life working, you don't
Yeah.
want to spend there just looking at the clock, just trying to get through it.
Yeah, no, definitely not, because then you're miserable.
Yeah, no doubt. And
Yeah.
you want that reward, that fulfillment.
Yep.
But the reality part of it is that fulfillment is there. I mean, the projects we do, the homeowners we work for, it is there. But there's the days to where it's a grind. Like I said, I'm on this bathroom that we're doing now,
Yep.
and we're pulling plaster out of the second floor. There's days where it's just like, what are we doing?
Yeah. This isn't fun anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, you see the Amazon guy. You're like, all right. Well, driving doesn't seem too bad right now.
Yeah. But again, that's the short term,
Right.
the short-sighted. Like long term, there's so many great things that come along. So
There is. And then with that, the other question, and I know we're coming up on an hour. The other question I had beyond the belt is, there's the business side of it. And I appreciate how much it goes into it. I mean, I'm working for a company. I can see how much is involved. You're, business owner. I've known you long enough to see how much you're constantly going. And we've talked about it, but what do you do outside of work to decompress? And I noticed you had some photography, and we've talked hunting, fishing.
Yep. So yeah, I enjoy getting outside. I enjoy doing different things. I like a variety of stuff. I don't really get pigeoned in on just one thing. So yeah, I love photography. I love doing that. That does take a lot of time to do, but I do really enjoy it. So I'll pick that up here and there where I can. I enjoy some videography stuff. So we do some of that as well. Definitely always trying to get out, doing some kind of hunting or fishing or just outdoors in general. I've always done some sort of martial arts. So I did taekwondo.
Okay.
I did tung sudo. I did. I'm doing some jujitsu and some kickboxing and some different stuff like that. So I really enjoy being physically active.
Yeah.
You definitely feel better, number one, but number two, it's just exciting to do. It's something different. It's a challenge. So I've been getting into stuff like that. And that's pretty much what we do. We used to race. That was a big outlet for me when we were really grinding when I was younger. I used to be into racing. So we used to go
Racing ball.
So we were Division I NHRA drag racing.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
So yeah, it was pretty cool. We had
So you had your own cars?
yeah, it was an '89 Mustang. Basically, it was a drag car. So we were stock eliminator. So we did like the Northeast circuit, which was pretty interesting.
Wow.
It was pretty cool.
So would that be like Englishtown?
Yeah, it was like Englishtown, Lebanon.
Lebanon, yeah.
Yeah, we went down as far as like Gainesville, stuff like that. So
So when did that come to an end? Just that you didn't have the time?
yeah, it was a lot of time. So literally, we would have to. It was all summers only. Obviously, winter we ripped apart the car and rebuilt it from.
Wow.
Every
Yeah.
single bolt came out. Every single bolt came back in for the most part every year. The summer times it was like we would work our tail off Monday through Thursday, leave Friday morning, race Friday night, Saturday, Sunday if we were still in the race, if we hadn't got bumped out by then, to drive back, to be back at like 2 o'clock in the morning, to jump in the truck to go work Monday. But we'd work till like 9, 10 o'clock at night every night, because sometimes we'd miss Thursday and sometimes we'd miss Monday if we were doing really good and not home till 3 a.m. So it was really a grind. I had broke the car, and they had some rule changes. So the car needed a tremendous amount of money to just be feasible for the class that it was in. And we just said, you know what, we're tired. It was fun, but time to move on to some other things.
Yeah, it can be an expensive hobby, and then you have kids, family, business. It's tough to
Yeah.
take a chunk out of a weekend and be committed to it.
Yeah, and RV life is tough too, because Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, a lot of times you're living out of an RV.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, that's why, and you and I have talked about getting out, fishing, hunting.
Yep.
You can sneak away. I mean, I don't know if you've had a chance recently with all you have going on to sneak away for anything. I mean, it's good if you're doing jujitsu, fitting that in, anything physical is always good.
Yeah, so I did not get out at all this year for the hunting season. It just didn't happen. We just had too much going on. I'm hoping to get out next season for sure. But the jujitsu I've been sneaking in there. It's nice because I can sneak it in. It's an hour. I'm done. I can go during the afternoon on my lunch. I'll just go, get a good workout in, do that, and then I'm back. So it's kind of nice in the middle of the day because it breaks up your day too. That afternoon drag, you kind of get it out of you and you're ready to go again.
Yeah, that's really good that you can do that. And then, based on, you can fit it into your schedule because that's what you have to do.
Yep.
I've had to do it and it's tough. I mean, whether it's through the day, depending on what's going on, or if something comes up, it's something, and I'm getting it. I'm getting stuff during the week. I'm trying to run more because for me, I just feel it's easy to, whether it's in the morning before work or after, if you just go 3 miles, it just takes half hour, a little less to squeeze it in, but you have to do it.
I heard you've been training for a marathon. Maybe was that true?
That's what my goal is. We'll see what happens. There's always the option of the half marathon, but I'm shooting high.
Okay.
I feel like one way or another I can just muscle through it.
Yep.
It's one thing. There's a few guys that I follow online. Maybe David Goggins.
Yep. Fantastic. I was just going to mention him too. Yeah, fantastic guy. Yep.
Well, I mean, obviously what he does is
it's a little intense.
Ultra extreme. Yeah. I mean, big time. I mean, so to just have a tiny piece, but it's big time as far as motivation.
Oh yeah.
But the one thing I remember him saying, he's like, you can sit in your living room where you're comfortable, hot cup of coffee, watching the TV, and just say, whatever it is, I'm going to go climb that mountain. I'm going to go run a marathon. And it's true because in your mind, you're like, you know what? I'm going to do this. But then when I'm running and I'm on mile 9,
yep.
And I'm like, oh man, I don't know, man, to go 26.
When it starts to hurt a little bit, you question. Yeah.
You're like, man, you really, but it's good because you appreciate it. It's you push yourself again through what Goggins does.
Yep.
I admire it because he pushes himself through his comfort zone, and his comfort zone, man, forget it. I couldn't even keep up with it. It's just his lifestyle.
He's insane, absolutely. But it's really interesting. I like to push myself like that too, physically, and I feel like that it kind of spurs something in your brain because you push past the point of where you really feel like you have to stop, and then you realize you can do so much more in other areas too. And I think that's really powerful to realize that you can do more than you think you can do.
It is, and it just because I didn't think when I first started running, I was like, I don't know how far I can get, but it's staying in that mindset because you're constantly saying, all right, I just want to slow down, start walking.
Yeah.
It'll come in, but then it will go away. And then you get into that flow state to where it's kind of like when you're driving and you've been driving for a few miles and you forget, you're like, holy cow. Whether you just get into that flow state, and it's the same thing with running. I can go for another 2 miles. It's like, holy cow, and not even think about it. But then it creeps in, and it's that whole technique of fighting it that can help with just daily life, with work. It's like, you know what? I'm just going to grind through this. It just, expands that bandwidth.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's amazing how mental everything is more than physical,
Big time.
you can beat yourself up mentally, or you can, allow yourself to open up and really realize your potential. So
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
cool.
Chris, I really appreciate you being on. This was awesome. I'm going to have you on again.
Love to. Thank you for having me on. Appreciate it. Definitely look forward to do it again, and we definitely need to do BOCES again. That was good.
Definitely. That's coming up soon. I'll be in touch for that. Where can people find you, CNC Glass, if they're looking to get some work done?
Sure. So we have a showroom right on 376 in Wappingers in the Summerlin Plaza. We're 942 Route 376. Or they can check us out on the web at cnc.glass.
All right, cool. Well, thanks again, Chris. I'll talk soon.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Mike.
Yep, thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right, it was great catching up with Chris, having him on the episode. I'm sure I'll have him on again and catch up with him on his end with what he's doing with his company. And as far as Beyond the Belt, we do have a lot of guests lined up, which I'm excited about. So I hope you enjoyed the episode. We're just starting up, but we're having a lot of things come together. So please tune in for the next one, and we'll see you then.